The KRGS Doors Show, proudly brought to you by KRGS Doors. For all your shopfront roller shutters, roller grills, folding closures and bifold doors, visit www.krgsdoors.com.au. Welcome to the KRGS Doors podcast. I'm your host, Drew Blackman. The aim of our podcast is to talk to cool people with cool stories, whether it be our suppliers, customers, staff, other business owners, or people from different walks of life, and get to know them a bit better. If you're interested in coming on, drop us a line or email, or connect with us via Facebook, and we can have a chat to see what we can do. Today on episode 40, that's right folks, 40 episodes of cool people with cool stories, and our 2-year-old KRGS Doors podcast, I'm joined by KRGS Doors Managing Director Clayton Blackman, and we talk to Ben Fordham from 2GB and Channel 9. After owning his own lawn mowing run as a kid, Ben started out as a rouseabout for radio stations, and now can be heard on his own high-rating breakfast 2GB show, but before that, he was also on TV Channel 9. I'll let you in on our next episode's guest, but for now, please welcome to the podcast, Mr. Ben Fordham.
If this doesn't turn you on, folks, you haven't got a switch.
Ben, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast today. What is the Ben Fordham story?
Drew and Clayton, can I start off by saying thanks for having me on? How come it took you guys so long to invite me on the bloody podcast?
Well, mate, you say it's actually episode 40 that you so a big number for a big superstar.
What a disgrace. So 39 other people have come before me. What a stitch-up.
I think you're a little bit busy though, mate, with time. I think you might have a bit on your plate.
Mate, I love what you guys are doing at KRGS. I just love the fact that you're thinking outside the square and having a go. And, you know, I know it's a family business. I suppose my story probably starts with my own family business because my mum and dad started a business in our garage when I was a kid. And it was a public relations business that then turned into a management business where they started managing. Well, their first client was Ricky Stewart, who's now the coach of the Canberra Raiders.
Yes.
But he was a young footy star playing rugby union, and then he transitioned to rugby league, and he was mum and dad's first client. And then they managed a whole heap of people who were kind of around sport and radio and media and things like that. So that was probably the thing that gave me a bit of an idea that I was interested in radio, because I started hanging out at radio stations through mum and dad. And then one day someone said, do you want to do work experience? So I did work experience on Alan Jones's show when I was 15.
That's a fair.
And then I heard about a job.
Mate.
Yeah, I heard about a job in the sports department on weekends. So I started, working in there every Sunday. At first they said to me, you're too young to be working. And I said, look, I'll do it for free.
Wow.
And, mate, there's nothing like hearing that, boys, as you know, when someone says I'll work for free.
Their eyes lit up?
Oh, absolutely. They absolutely gave me a go. And then, so my first job was working on Ray Hadley's continuous call team, answering phones and buying lunches and making coffees and stuff like that. And I've been around radio kind of ever since.
And obviously that family business, mate, kicked off, it was your father, the late, great John Fordham.
Yeah. Dad, John and Mum Veronica, and they started the business. And, mate, I know what it's like to be from a small business family because, mate, it was our garage. It was a garage that they then filled in and turned it into an office.
Yeah.
And so growing up, you'd be running around the house running amok, me and my little brother Nick, and then Dad would throw something at us because he was on a call trying to stitch up some deal. So it was only when we were much older that I remember Dad said to us once, and Mum said, hey, listen, we've got an office in the city. And we were like, oh.
Wow.
And, and that was probably the first sign of, hey, they must be going all right here.
Yeah.
But, it's funny how times change because these days my dad passed away a couple of years ago and my brother runs the business these days, Nick.
Yes.
And Mum's still involved in the side in kind of giving Nick a bit of guidance. But it's funny the way the world turns because my brother works from home these days, a bit like Mum and Dad did.
He's downsized.
Yeah. He's just he's got an office in Sydney that's got maybe, 6 or 7 staff in it. But he just takes the view these days that I think COVID taught him that he doesn't need to be in there every day. I think he goes in on a Monday and a Friday, gives them a bit of a pump up and a pep talk and checks in on everyone, and then the rest of it's done remotely.
Yeah.
You mentioned, mate, in your media starting career that you worked for free and you're a bit of a rouseabout, you did everything. How did you end up then being on air?
Well, I started. I think, like anyone, when you're a young person starting out in a job, you tend to look at the people who are older than you and smarter than you and think, all right, I want to do that one day. So I was given some valuable advice once from someone. They just said, look, just sit on your backside, look at the way everyone else does it, and then work out what they do well and copy it. So I tended to watch the reporters, the radio reporters who I really respected, and I just started studying them and thinking, I really like the way they do that. I really like the way they do this. Same with TV. Then I used to do the same on TV. I'd watch the reporters who I really liked, and I'd think, all right, well, I wouldn't mind having a go at that one day. So I really learned. I never went to university. So the moment I finished year 12, that was it for me. I knew I wasn't going to go and do further study because I'd kind of had enough of it by the end of high school. So I just kind of learnt on the job and watched everyone else do it. And that's how I got to start on radio as a radio reporter for 2UE back in the day. And then I became a political correspondent. And then, I thought I'll give TV a go. So I went and did some stuff at Sky News. And then I went to Channel 9 and became a reporter on A Current Affair, did a few stories for 60 Minutes. Ended up on the Today Show alongside Carl Stefanovic and Lisa Wilkinson and Richard Wilkins and Georgie Gardner. And after I did 4 years where I was on the Today Show of a morning and then drive time 2GB of an afternoon. So it was, 5:30 to 9 a.m. on TV and then 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. on radio. And I promised my wife Jodie I'd only do both of them for 1 year. I did 4 years of doing both of them. And then I eventually kind of realised, something's got to give here. And we wanted to start a family. So I said goodbye to the Today Show. And a lot of people were a bit confused about that. They're like, hang on a moment, you're on TV and you're going to go and do a radio show. But being a radio guy, I always knew that radio was the main game. And I always knew that, radio just gave you this flexibility to do what you want, say what you want. Where TV's much more of a team environment, and you've got a million things going on. And I just enjoyed radio more. And I can also, in summer, I can wear shorts and a pair of thongs to work on. On Australia Day, we have a rule. We work on public holidays.
Yeah.
And we have a thong mandate on Australia Day where I say, everyone's got to wear thongs into the office on Australia Day. You can't do that kind of thing on TV.
It'd be un-Australian if you didn't, mate.
Bloody oath.
You talk about I watch and listen to you on Channel 9 and on 2GB, but you talk about that time of that 4 years. I don't know how you did it, mate. The early starts there on Channel 9 on the breakfast show, and then afternoon drive time going home. Like that must have really burnt the candle at both ends.
Yeah, it did. I think it was one of these ones where I said to Jodie, I said, this is interesting. I've been offered Today Show and I've been offered Drive Time 2GB. And she said, which one are you going to do? And I said, both. And look, that you'd get that as well. I think that probably comes from being, the son of small business owners. It's like when opportunity comes knocking, you don't kind of go, I'll just open one door. You find a way of opening both at once.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why I did it because, and I really, I've got 3 kids, 7, 5 and 2, Freddie, Pearl and Goldie. And I really drill into them, the importance of hard work. In fact, just last night over dinner, I said to Pearl, our middle girl, I said, what time do Mum and Dad get up in the morning? And she kind of looked back at me and she thought, is this some kind of test? I said, no, do you know what time? And, she's only 5, but I say to her, we get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, because I just like to let them know, hey, this stuff doesn't happen by accident. Yeah. We're not going away on a holiday by some kind of fluke. You don't have a swimming pool out in the backyard by accident.
Yeah.
These things happen because your mum and dad work really hard. My wife Jodie reads the 5 a.m. news on Channel 7 every morning before sunrise.
That's right.
Her alarm goes off at 3 o'clock. My alarm goes off at 3 o'clock. And, mate, that's not easy in the middle of winter.
No.
It's freezing bloody cold and you kind of look at each other and think, what's going on here? But, then quickly Thursday rolls around and I've got a bit of a saying in the office that I say Thursday's the new Friday. Once you hit that Thursday vibe, you think, all right, not long to go now.
I'm really there.
And I do a thing with my team at 2GB. I've got a really young and keen team. More than half of them started as work experience kids. I've got a young bloke who's working with me called Spiro. He was actually a talkback caller 2 years ago
really?
to this day, which was my first day doing the breakfast show. He called in as a talkback caller, and he was such a good talker that then we made him our HSC correspondent because there was a lot of news around the HSC.
Yeah.
Because of COVID, there was rules about dancing and, all that kind of stuff at school formals, and so we started getting Spiro on. Well, he now works for us, so I've got a really good young team, and something we do most Fridays after the show, the pub opens at 10 a.m. and we go to the pub at 10 a.m. Now, you might look a bit desperate standing outside the pub at 9:58 a.m. waiting for the doors to open, but they're up at 2:30 in the morning, my team, and I'm up at 3 o'clock, so it's almost lunchtime according to our body clock, and that's our time to be able to go, righto, let's go and have a beer, let's go and have a tequila lime and soda, which is my drink of choice these days. I'm trying to lose a few kilos. And play a few games of pool and have a bit of a laugh and a bit of a debrief because, if you don't have some of that teamwork happening, then it doesn't make the alarm clock that easy when you're getting out of bed at 2:30 in the morning.
No, and you talk about your team there, mate. You've got to thank Soph there that's helped us along the way and done the communication to get you on the famous KRGS Doors podcast.
Mate, it's interesting. Sophia Grady, who works with me, Sophia's been with me about 3 years. She's really young. She started as a work experience kid. And what are the chances that role that she's got? She's, a producer on the radio show, but she's also my assistant. And when I thought about having an assistant, I thought, you know what? I want an older person. I want an older woman, someone who's been around the block and, they're not going to be rushing off looking for another job on me in 12 months' time. Yeah. So I actually contacted a lady by the name of Maria, who I worked with years ago, who's a lot more experienced than Sophia. And I called Maria and said, listen, how about coming to work for me? And she was like, oh, mate, I've got my own business these days. I really don't want to be, it's not for me. She goes, but I know this young girl called Sophia. She's like a goddaughter to me. And I was like, oh, okay. I said, but I don't want a young woman. I want someone who's a bit older like you, a bit more experienced. And she said, just meet Sophia and you'll change your mind. So I said, righto. So I met Sophia and Sophia said to me, she goes, I think Sophia she was 20, right? She goes, are you sure you want me to have a go at this? She goes, I feel like it's a job that is a bit beyond my experience. And I said, well, look, let's just give it a go and see how it goes. Yeah. And that was probably 3 years ago. She was 20. I still remember going to her 21st birthday party. She's become a part of my family. We've been on holidays together. My kids love her. So it's about giving people a go. And, I've got another young producer working for me just recently called Sienna Williams, who's 17. I've got another star of the future called Lucy Borg, who's 15. And when she came in and did work experience with us, Sophia said to me, she's so good on the phones talking to the listeners. And so I said to Lucy, where does that come from? Where does that confidence come from? And she goes, mate, I do Macca's drive-through. And I was like, no wonder. You imagine on a Saturday night dealing with all these people coming in and ordering, a quarter pounder meal or whatever they want, 21 nuggets, and you got the wrong sauce. And so she's used to being under pressure. So I've always taken the theory too that you never know where you're going to find someone. And the more you encourage people, the better your team's going to be. So I'm really lucky that I've got these young, keen, superstar producers who are part of the breakfast team on 2GB.
Sounds great. Now, you mentioned the hard work and you mentioned it too, that you were talking to your daughter about it. Do you think that was instilled in you from an early age, sitting in that garage with your parents?
Oh, mate, absolutely. It was, we didn't have a choice, from the moment that we could push a lawnmower, Mum and Dad broke the news to us that we had our own lawnmower business. And my brother and I were like, what do you mean? And mate, we didn't even have a chance to think about it. They had flyers made up and they said, go around and put these in people's letterboxes. And so Ben and Nick Fordham had the Fordham Brothers lawn mowing business.
Oh, wow.
And, it was $10 for a lawn or something like that. And it was just one of these things. I don't know. I think it just happens, when it's in your environment and when it's around you, I think it just becomes part of your DNA. And that's why it is sad that you do have, some young people growing up in families where there's been generational unemployment. And if that's what's surrounding you, you just don't know any different. But, the pleasure you get out of a good day at work, and not everyone's going to be good, but when things go right and when you deliver a good product for people, when you make people happy, when you walk away feeling like, all right, I achieved something today, I just reckon there's no better feeling than it. And I go out of my way. Like occasionally I'll be swimming in the swimming pool out the back and the kids are going nuts. They're loving it. They're doing bombs and everything else. And I will say to them, I'll say, why have we got this pool? And then they go, because you and Mum have worked hard and you get up in the morning nice and early. And I go, mate, and I just like, it might be a little bit of I might be a bit too serious about it from time to time, but I don't want my kids growing up thinking that any of this stuff happens by accident, because it doesn't. You've got to work hard. You've got to be prepared to sacrifice things. I've got mates of mine. I'm now 45 and I've got a group of mates who I've been mates with since we were 13, and a lot of them remind me, they go, mate, I still remember the 21st birthdays that you missed. And I did.
Yeah.
I missed the 21st birthdays of a number of my friends because I was working as a cadet journalist at 2UE in the radio newsroom. And Saturday night I had to work, So it's like, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to keep on taking time off because you want to go and party? Or are you prepared to do what you're being paid to do? So, mate, you got to make a few sacrifices along the way.
Yeah, I going back to your words of wisdom, mate, to your children. I'm the same. I've got three daughters, and it's the same. It's the hard work you got to put in. So I tell them it's like a bank account. You got to put in before you can take out. Yeah,
well, mate, I'm a bit. I can be a bit tough on them from time to time as well, boys. Like, I'll give you an example. There was an incident a few months ago. We live in a nice, quiet street. We've got lots of mates in our street. And Freddie Fordham, who's 7, during lockdown, he just got old enough that we were like, you know what, he's locked up at home, he's homeschooling. I think he's old enough to go and play out on the street with his mates without us from time to time. So we're like, righto, we live in a dead end, you know what I mean? What could go wrong, So we said, all right, mate, you got to behave yourself. You got to take responsibility. Anyway, he came home one day without his shoes.
Right.
And I said, and they were brand new, right? So I go, where are your shoes? He goes, oh, I don't know. I was like, well, you're left with shoes on. You got no shoes on, mate. Where are they? Go and find them. Right? So I sent him down the end of the road. He comes back. He said, can't find them. And I said, mate. So I go with him. We're looking for them. And I think what had happened is it was throw out day, right? So he's left them out on the he's left them out on the curb or whatever on the grass, and someone's driven past and gone, yippee, free pair of Adidas, right? So they've taken off with them. And so I just got to go back down, and I said, mate, what do you mean? I just left him there, and then you just went and paid somewhere else. I said, oh, well. I said, mate, let's go to your piggy bank.
Yeah.
And he goes, what for? I said, well, mate, they cost money, mate. We bought them for you last week. Oh, they're not free.
Yeah.
So I said, mate, we'll take $50 out, because he'd saved up. I think he saved up, and to his credit, mate, he saved up a lot of money by doing jobs, and my kids will now come to me and go, can we do some pocket money jobs? I go, righto, give them a few jobs, and out they go. My girl Pearl loves weeding in the backyard. Freddie will go doing, some raking or doing whatever. So they've earned a bit of pocket money, but I just went, well, mate, I'm going to teach you a bit of a lesson here. That stuff's not free.
No.
So I'll take $50. So we went to his piggy bank, and he took $50 out and gave it to me, and I said, mate, thanks a lot. And I was like, I'm guessing next time you're going to be a bit more careful with your shoes, Now, that might seem harsh, but, there's a story years and years and years ago about Kerry Packer.
Yes.
That when Kerry Packer was at boarding school as a young bloke, he left a tennis racket at boarding school, and he got all the way home, and his old man said to him, where's your tennis racket? And he said, oh, I don't know. I think I left it at boarding school. And he said, go back and get it. Go back and get it. It costs money. I'm teaching you a lesson. Well, if it's good enough for a billionaire, it's going to be good enough for us, that there's just those little lessons you teach people along the way. And, you don't want to be a hard ass too much. We have a lot of good times together and whatever, but I don't know, mate. That's just the way I was brought up.
Yeah, I think Sir Frank Packer would have had some hard lessons there for a young Kerry.
Yeah, they don't muck around, mate. They don't muck around. So, and mate, tell me, in your family, so what's the go? How you've got 3?
I've got 3. Drew's got 3.
A daughter and 2 boys.
Gee, so what's that like when you guys are all together?
Mayhem.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun,
good
mate.
fun,
a lot of
though.
fun, a lot of fun and laughs. Absolutely.
There'd be a bit of madness going on with 6 of them running around.
Yeah, there is. Mine are older, and Drew's got an older. Well, they're all probably similar, and so mine's 26, 22, and 17,
Oh, yeah.
and Drew's got
19, 17 and 6.
Oh, they sound like babysitter age, so I'll be giving them a call and they can come around here.
I got it, mate. Yeah, girls are a couple of babysitters. Yep, yell out. No, happy to help.
Mate, that's the other thing. I'll tell you what, I love giving people jobs. Like in my street, I've got a kid called Charlie who washes cars. I've got a girl called Molly who will come and babysit our kids and kind of play with our kids if Jodie and I are occupied doing something else. I'm always looking. There was a girl called Jasmine who lived across the road. She's now gone to university in Canberra, but I discovered she was a good cook when she was about 17, and she cooks for her family every Sunday night. So I said, hey, if I gave you $50 and paid for ingredients, can you cook for us as well on a Sunday night? She was like, yeah, happy days. So, the old lawn mowing business, I think it's taught me something as well, that if you can pay it forward, and my mum always said to me, one of the best gifts you can give people is a job. So, I'm big on giving the kids in the neighbourhood a bit of a gig, bit of encouragement, make them earn a bit of pocket money, and if they can, scoop the pool for me or avoid me having to bend down and empty out the pool filter, I'm happy to pay them a few bucks.
You might be able to sell a lawn mowing franchise there to young Freddie Fordham, mate. You know what I mean? Going forward, if he's skinny on money, he might be able to sell the Fordham franchise.
You can earn good dough doing that. Speaking of which, how much do I get paid for appearing on the podcast?
Well, we can negotiate, mate. It's up for negotiations.
We've been actually dealing with Nick Fordham, who said we've negotiated,
no, don't do that, mate.
negated a good rate.
He takes too big a cut. Now, listen, boys, as I'm talking to you, my little 2-year-old Goldie has just arrived home, all rugged up, and, she's wearing a mask. She's dressed as a shark.
I think
she's come in to scare me, so I better go and hang out with her, but love talking to you.
I love the names.
Oh, hang on a minute. What'd you do? Did you make it? For me? Oh, she made it for her, she's telling me. Mate, it's great talking to you, boys, and congrats on the podcast.
Fordo, mate, I really appreciate your time, mate. You're a star. Mate, keep up the good work, and much appreciate you and your staff, and it's good to have a chat, mate. All the best.
No worries, boys. Congratulations.
Thanks very much, Ben.
Take
Cheers.
care, mate.
See you guys.
Buddy.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
That wraps up the 40th episode and our chat with Ben Fordham, media superstar and 2GB radio breakfast host, and a cameo from his daughter Goldie. Check out Ben's award-winning show on 2GB 873, 5:30am to 9am weekdays, and also check out Ben's Instagram page, Ben Fordham 9. That's Ben Fordham and the numeral 9 to get an insight to his life with his kids. If you've missed any previous episodes of the KRGS Doors podcast, you can download them from our website, www.krgsdoors.com.au/podcast, or on your favourite podcast player, search KRGS Doors. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button to ensure you don't miss any future episodes. This also boosts our ranking and my ego. The other thing I suggest, if you've enjoyed the podcast, visit your favourite podcast player and leave a review or a rating. On our next episode, we speak to Stuart Percy from Voss Construction. Based in Tasmania and the leader in shop fitting, we talk all things about Stuart's career, business and Tasmania, so keep your ears peeled for that chat. I've been your host, Drew Blackman, and you've been fantastic for tuning in today. As always, you could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. Thanks. Till next time. The KRGS Doors Show, proudly brought to you by KRGS Doors. For all your shopfront roller shutters, roller grills, folding closures and bifold doors, visit www.krgsdoors.com.au.